The Searchlight fishing tug. Now before we get started on today's episode, I will have to point out that I could not find a single photo of this vessel. Trust me, I looked everywhere. I even called a historical society to find something as well. Now the images you see today of other wooden fishing tugs are used as an example of what she may have looked like. So, with that being said, let's start today's episode. The Searchlight fishing tug, built in 1899 at West Bay City, Michigan, and constructed out of wood. This small vessel had a single propeller for her propulsion, and she had a length of 40 feet, a beam of 10, a depth of 3, and a gross tonnage of 9. She also had a net tonnage of 6. Now, wooden fishing tugs would spend their times on the Great Lakes operating as commercial workhorses. These vessels would serve remote island or coastal fishing communities, and they would go out onto the waters, often in freezing temperatures, to fish for massive quantities of whitefish and trout. These fishing tugs were also known as all-weather harvesting vessels. This would allow the crews of the fishing tugs to go out and fish in deeper open waters, much farther away from port, and being, again, that they could operate year-round, they would often endure cold, wind-tossed waves. However, they would have some protection from this as they were enclosed in a turtleback cabin design aboard them. These wooden fishing tugs would have the ability to navigate through ice. They would plow through early winter packed ice on the waters, and they would have designed in front of them a steel-sheathed wooden hull. This again would help them in their extended runs in the late seasons for fishing. In addition to carrying large amounts of fish within them, these tugs would also be able to carry heavy loads of ice. This was in order to keep the fish fresh within them, especially when they are off on multi-day runs to and from ports. One other interesting fact here about their design is the turtleback design would help keep the tugs or the boats stable in heavy seas out on the waters. One final bit of information here I figured I'd throw in, though this may go without saying, I don't think it would hurt. What is the difference between a standard tugboat and a fishing tug? Now, the traditional tugboats on the Great Lakes would push or pull heavy ships and barges. This was their primary role. However, fishing tugs, even though they were quote-unquote tugs, were strictly for commercial harvesting of fish, built to catch them and bring them back. The Searchlight fishing tug would serve for about 8 years on the Great Lakes. As far as I could find, she would serve without incident. However, that would all come to a tragic end in a violent storm on Lake Huron on April 23rd of 1907. April 23rd, 1907. The weather was clear for Harbor Beach, Michigan on Lake Huron. 6 crew members aboard the Searchlight tug, Captain Walter Brown, mate Harry Brown, fireman Merton Perkins, deckhand John Lester, all of whom were from Harbor Beach, along with engineer Edward Kovu of Bay City, and finally deckhand Angus Murray of Detroit, would have their lives changed forever. Now, the Browns had actually just recently purchased the fishing tug Searchlight from the Bay City owners, and it is also said that this is the first run of the season as well for the Searchlight. They would be making their way about 12 miles off the coast of Harbor Beach, Michigan, and they were headed for fishing grounds. Several weeks prior, there were mass fishing nets holding fish. They were unable, though, however, to retrieve these nets because of severe storms. The Searchlight also did not go out on her own. She would be accompanied by another vessel, which was also operated by Albert Brown and James Lester, to these fishing grounds. As stated before, the weather was fair, and so both vessels made their way out onto Lake Huron to the fishing grounds. The fishermen spent the day retrieving the fishing nets. However, come later in the afternoon, the weather showed signs of changing, and drastically at that. Albert Brown on the other vessel made the decision to head back to port. But Captain Walter Brown on the Searchlight tug decided to stay out a bit longer in order to finish up bringing in all the rest of the fishing nets. As later in the evening approached, around 7 p.m. or so, a massive gale began to sweep across Lake Huron, and the Searchlight tug was still out there. The Searchlight battled her way back to port, slowly but surely. Lifesavers on shore, with their binoculars on the Searchlight, watched as she fought for her life. As the sun was making her final disappearance below the waterline, the lifesavers, with their binoculars, and apparently too dark as well to see anything, said that the tug just vanished. There was nothing. One moment the tug was there, the next she was gone. Not even emergency lights or flares were seen. The Searchlight in the massive gale and storm on Lake Huron had vanished, along with her 6 crew members. The life-saving rescuers would spend several days searching for any clues as to what happened to the Searchlight. Did she break apart on the water? Did she capsize? What happened to her? Eventually, though, some debris was found, including some fish boxes, a life jacket, and fuel cans, along with other small broken debris pieces, were found about 5 miles south of where the Searchlight had last been seen before she disappeared. Even the lifeboat aboard the Searchlight was missing, which could have been a very good clue as to her fast sinking. Now, this would not be the last time anyone would hear or see anything from the Searchlight fishing tug. About 6 years later, a report in fact says that during the 1913 storm, or the White Hurricane, which would ravage the Great Lakes, some debris and a body would wash ashore from this storm, and it is said to be that from the Searchlight. Now, whether or not the body was from the Searchlight, however, is unclear. But it is interesting, to say the least. As of the recording of this video, though, the Searchlight has never been found. Hopefully her wreck will be found one day, so that it may give some more evidence into her disappearance on Lake Huron. And that is the story of the fishing tug Searchlight, and her sad and mysterious disappearance on Lake Huron. Thank you, everybody, for joining me on today's episode. A bit of a shorter one again, but man, what an intriguing story. I was fascinated with this vessel, and yeah, I could not find a single photo of her anywhere. But I'm glad I could use other wooden fishing tugs photos for examples of what she could have looked like. A lot of similar designs and whatnot. And, there's more to this story. Definitely check out the sources that I posted below. Apparently they would, the two vessels, the Searchlight and the other one with the Brown family, they would switch deckhands from the other vessel to the Searchlight, and then they would make their way out, and the other vessel made her way back to port while the Searchlight tried to finish things up, retrieving all the rest of the fishing nets out there. The Searchlight's captain, Walter Brown, was said to be a hardy seaman, fisherman guy. Like, this guy was not green. He knew what he was doing out there. But, unfortunately, even with experience, just the ferocity of these storms on the Great Lakes can unfortunately prove disastrous. And for only a 40-foot wooden fishing tugboat, she met her end. And I wanted to bring these 6 men and their lives and stories as best as I could to the channel and to attention about what happened to them, and hopefully with some more time her wreck can be found, or at the very least, if you guys find some more additional information, definitely comment below, and I want to hear about it. I want to hear from you on your findings, because this story was definitely an interesting one for me, and it weighed heavy on my heart. So, but thank you. Yes, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. And I enjoyed this video a lot. I know I've been kind of sporadic with my uploads lately, but trust me, it's not because I'm lazy or anything. I really have been trying hard to network for some good interviews coming up with some incredible people. As the summer months now are getting later, things are going to start winding down for a lot of these people, and I can bring on more interviews with some really good ones, guys. I'm not trying to trick you or anything, but there are some great interviewees coming in the future here. And if you love Great Lakes shipwrecks and the lore and historians, shipwreck hunters, you name it, then you will definitely want to check out these interviews in the future coming, as they are some great talented, passionate people coming. So I'm not going to give any names, but just rest assured there are a lot of good ones coming. So, but with that being said, again, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I appreciate your support and your input as always, and God bless you. And look forward again to the next ship story or whatever comes in the future. Until then, thank you for joining me on Songs of the Great Lakes.